Hey, welcome to the No Guts, No Game podcast. This podcast is dedicated to help you navigate the journey of buying a Sandler franchise. So whether you've just started the investigation or you're knee deep into the decision process, we've got you covered. Hi, I'm Dave Mattson, Executive Chairman and President of Franchising here at Sandler. In each episode, I'm interviewing a Sandler franchisee who is in your shoes. Now, maybe they were investigating 2 years ago or 2 months ago, but they're gonna share their experiences, their insights, the questions that they had when they were sitting in your chair. The goal of the podcast is to provide you valuable information and firsthand accounts from their perspective that will help you in your decision-making process for you and your family. So sit back, relax, and get ready to hear from those who have already jumped into entrepreneurship with a Sandler franchise. Hey, Tiffany, welcome to the No Guts, No Game podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
So Tiffany, when we have people looking at the business, I always think that they fall into certain groups, right? Hey, I'm in between jobs, or I'm afraid to leave my job, or I don't know anyone in my territory. It could be, there's a million things that people pop into. And one of them is, hey, what does it look like as a female-owned business, the demographics? Does it have any impact on our business? And I thought there was nobody better than you for us to talk to. You're still newer in the business, right? And a lot of respect. You're doing great. So I thought we would just kind of pick that apart in addition to your story, your venture. So maybe if we go back in time for a touch for a second,
Sure.
Tell us what led you to even think about, okay, it's time for me to do my own thing, right? Because first of all, that's uncommon to begin with. So where were you in your career?
Yeah. So I spent almost, I was 25 years in sales and sales leadership roles.
Okay.
And what's interesting, I was in manufacturing for most of that time. Mm-hmm. And we brought on Sandler as, to help us transform our sales team. And what ended up happening is it transformed my life, both personally and professionally. And I went to Summit in 2017. And it was then that I realized, these are my people and this is what I'm meant to do. I found my calling then. And so I knew it was something I was going to do. And of course, I was waiting for, that right time. And so, sometimes doors open and sometimes you're shoved out the window.
Yeah. So you were a client, which is awesome. You experienced that it's Sandler's much more than just sales training, right? Just kind of changes the way you think and act. And for those that don't know the Summit, that's where we get about 1,200 clients once a year in Florida come down, and we have all of our trainers kind of share best practices, and it's very cool. I always get the chills in the back of my neck when I walk into that room, and there's just so many people sharing success stories, and we're all there for a common purpose, which is to just be better, and we're using Sandler to do that. So I didn't realize you're there in 2017. So were you employed when you decided to jump out the window, as you said, or get pushed? Or were you between jobs and you said, okay, now's the time?
So I was, and in fact, I had worked for one organization, and we were acquired, and then I was recruited by another organization, and so I brought on Sandler then, and they had introduced me to another Sandler trainer, and I told him, I'm like, hey, this is what I'm meant to do, and he said, well, actually, I'm looking to sell. I want to go work for corporate, and it was just meant to be. And so, it took us a couple of years, and we worked it out, transformed the team, got them to a point that, they were able to maintain on their own. And it was time for me to come to the Sandler side.
So you actually were employed. You made a conscious decision, I'm leaving employment to come home. And so it was time. And you said, okay, we're going to risk it as a family, I'm assuming, right?
Yep.
It's just out of curiosity, because, people always talk when they're looking at a franchise, I've got to go, like my spouse doesn't know, or they do know, or they're super uncomfortable because it's this unknown risk thing. How did that happen? Without the specifics though, but did you have, was your partner 100% on board right away, or it was like, hey, I've been talking about this for 5 years, I'm serious, or I'm going to do it? What happened there?
Well, interesting story. So you say, was I employed? I was to a certain extent, and this was our plan. But interestingly enough, I mean, that company, it wasn't the right fit for me.
Okay.
So actually, in a turn of events, they let me go. And it was, I mean, it was the right thing to do for them. And it was the right thing for me. And I mean, it was that moment I was like, okay, yeah, this is, I mean, like I said, I was shoved out the window. That's literally what I meant is
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily ready. And I equate it to one of my friends told me, because I was a little bit an older mom. And she was like, Tiffany, if you wait till you're ready to have kids, you're never going to have kids. So, I mean, it was the same thing. If you wait till you're ready to start a business, you're never going to do it. So I needed that. And I'm super grateful for that blessing. I mean, it was,
Yeah.
an embarrassment to my ego at the time, but it was exactly what was meant to happen. And I couldn't be happier with the
And
way it.
how long have you been in the network now?
So I've been in the network for 3 years now, and
Okay.
I bought the business in the beginning of 22.
Okay. So your kids back then were anywhere from, I guess, 9 and 7, somewhere in that area. Is that about right?
Yep, they're 10 and 12 now.
So you, so
Yeah.
you had lots of stuff going on. It's not like you had plenty of time in your day, right? Right.
Yep.
So how
Oh,
do you juggle
absolutely.
as an entrepreneur with kids that age? You've got all the other aspects of your life that are going on. How do you juggle? What have you found to be the magic for you?
You've got to figure out what you say no to, and I mean, you just put in the time. So, I mean, I get up at 4:30 in the morning to work out at 5. Did the same this morning before we, um, hit the road. And you just maximize your day planning. I have to be planning is doesn't necessarily come natural for me, so I have to work hard at it.
So let's talk a little bit about what it looked like for you. So
Mhm.
to say no, we have different aspects of the business. I'll call it the public side where people come to us, right? And it's from all different types of businesses. And we call that the Essentials program and the sales development series. We also have corporate work where we go to them. And that's where organizations may have, 20, 30 people, and they're like, hey, I don't want to send them to the public. Come to me, work privately because my business is different. There's a lot of variety there. Sometimes you get to do it. You're in Dallas. Sometimes you get to do it in your backyard. Sometimes you got to travel. So what does your business look like? How have you picked and choose what you're doing based on just what's going on in your world?
Yeah, great question. And it's interesting. My business is a mix of the two. So I do have group trainings that I have, and then I also have some corporate clients that I'm going to their facility and training their team.
Locally, or are you on a plane?
It's local for the most part. I have traveled, so probably about once a quarter I'll travel.
So
So
tell us a little bit about your client base. Like what is it made up of? Whether it's industry, persona, it could be this type of sales, it could be managers, it could be, hey, I'm gravitated to other women. I mean, what does it look like
yeah.
exactly?
Well, and I am a woman-owned business, so I was certified, which is exciting. And
Congrats.
I love helping woman-owned businesses and small and medium-sized businesses grow. Like I want to walk beside them as they scale, and just help their sales organization, gravitate to that high-performing sales organization. So I find joy in that. I really love working with young SDRs. So that's where I found, sales development reps. So not to use a buzzword, but yeah, young sales reps who, maybe they don't have bad habits. They haven't been trained in sales. And so, they come in with this growth mindset. They're hungry and they're willing to work. And I love that. I mean, you have to have a growth mindset. That's my number one, non-negotiable. If you don't have a growth mindset, it's never going to work.
So yeah, I do love the young. I've always thought the younger groups would be the ones who always gravitate towards us. And that's true, depending on if you have that growth mindset. Some of them are like, that's not happening to me. I know better. So they have to get beat up a little bit, right? In order for them to do it. But I
Yeah.
love that. I love that age group. I love that industry. And I'd like to talk to you about what their experience is and if they're getting a return on investment here. Well, maybe we'll do that. How are they? What success have you found that they're having? Have you gotten any feedback, any from from your client base about what impact you've had on their lives?
Absolutely. And I do, I track, quantifiable results like, hey, what are you attributing to Sandler? Both qualitative and quantitative, right? So, I have one client in particular, and they're pretty large, and so year over year, I'm on my third year with them, but for the first 2 years, they grew 7% year over year, and they hadn't experienced that kind of growth historically. So, I mean, I love that.
Yeah.
And really, one of, the reason I'm in this business is, I want to transform lives in the same way that my life was transformed. So I had a client share with me, and I'll just, share with what she told me. And she said, the Sandler program was life changing for her. And so I quote, over the last 2 years, it's equipped me with critical conflict resolution skills, strategies for asking tough questions, and the ability to separate my identity from my professional role. So she said upfront contracts transformed her life. And, she credits her achievement of being promoted to, of course, her stellar performance, but also the execution of the techniques that I was able to teach her. So, and she said it also transformed her life personally. And I mean, there's no greater,
there's nothing better than that.
nothing,
Honestly.
Yeah.
When you hear people, whether it's single parents, come up to me and say, I didn't know how I was going to send my kids to college without a huge amount of debt, or I actually bought, whether it's a vacation home, or I've got enough money to retire. It's nice when you're like, hey, I could close this business as an entrepreneur. Hey, my business is great, that's great. But when you get those accolades from your clients year after year, I'll tell you, it's what causes me to wake up, and I know it is for you too, because you have like the best of both worlds. You get to help people. It's almost like a nonprofit. You're helping a ton of people, but it's not a nonprofit.
Right.
So you get the best of both worlds in a way, which I always thought was very cool. So you talked about being certified. Tell us a little bit about that, and has that had any impact on your business?
So I was just certified a few months ago, and
Okay.
it's a more challenging process than I anticipated. But I had some support there, right? Surround yourself with the who's.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been great. I've already connected with some different woman-owned businesses, and so I'm talking with a few different business owners to see how we can, how I can support them in their growth.
So is there a from a buying perspective, outside of Sandler's great, you're great, being certified, does that help you in any way, shape, or fashion when it comes to the sales process, or just as far as networking and things of that nature?
It's networking. Also, some organizations have they will award bids or opportunities to woman-owned businesses or minority-owned businesses.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hey, if it gives me an advantage,
the opportunity to have a conversation, why not?
We'll see if it's a fit. I'm not a fit for everybody, but where it is, if I have a chance to change some lives, sign me.
Now, have you found yourself, let's say, joining the women's entrepreneurial groups? There's women in leadership groups. And so in the Dallas area, have you found yourself nesting in that particular area at all? Or are you just, hey, guess what? Business is business.
So I'm actually a part of a Vistage group, and it's been incredible. It was a decision I made early on. In fact, before I even bought the business, I found the right chair, and he invited me in. And I've just grown with this group, and we're really close. So I attribute a lot of my success to.
Is that a great referral source for you?
It has been. It has been.
And it's actually a place where, like, your clients come to you in a safe environment. That's your safe environment as well, I would suspect.
Exactly. Yeah, because I've got a business, and I'm trying to grow a business. And so just having that network, it can be lonely at times, right? I mean, as any business owner.
Yeah, there's no one you really can complain to.
That's right. Right. I know.
And you can't go home and complain, because everybody expects you to be the rock, because, like, is the business in trouble? I mean, and you're just going through the normal fears, scares, and like, hey,
right.
I just had a bad day. But you can't say it. I found anyways. It's because the ripple effect for them is a little unusual.
Well,
So
my boss is a slave driver, so the complaints just go nowhere.
he has an awesome complaint division that's not it's not staffed at this point in time.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So looking back, couple things. What's the aha that you didn't expect when you came in the business? Like, this is awesome. And then do you have a piece of advice for people that are behind you now, either just starting to look, or if you did one thing differently, maybe I'll say it differently. If you had to do one thing differently, what would it be?
Probably give myself a little more grace and lean into the process. So we're never a finished product. And so, I have a tendency to like, okay, I want to get to my goal rather than enjoy the process of who I'm becoming. Right. And
Yeah.
because we're never a finished product. So enjoy the process more.
So that's your advice, but I'm smiling because I never enjoy the ride. And, we have the same type of makeup, and then when I get to the end as an entrepreneur, I'm not even celebrating that. I'm worried like, okay, well, what about that one? Or, hey, we got to move the flag, or whatever the case may be. So when you said that, I smiled. What is the greatest, is that also the greatest surprise or positive that you didn't expect in coming into the business?
I would say one of the greatest surprises is just the supportive network. I have never met a group of growth-oriented, supportive people that make up the Sandler network. I mean, I could call anybody, and as busy as their schedule might be, they will set aside time for me.
Yeah.
Like for instance, I'm in Mike Crandall's office here in Oklahoma City. I'm on my way up to Missouri for a family trip, and they so graciously invited me and my kids in. I just couldn't be more grateful for that.
I think that's the hardest thing to describe. When we talk about the business and you've got 2 or 3 people looking at the business, we kind of walk you through the day in a life. And when I say the culture of Sandler is completely different than anything that you've ever experienced, and it almost sounds like they say, yeah, okay, when you describe it to you, but it's almost like we're a bunch of corporate misfits. Like, we left corporate on purpose, right?
Yes.
You could have gone back, and now we're here and to support each other and to pay forward. I mean, they're helping you. They don't have to help you, right? They don't have to help you. Even the people that are in your backyard in Dallas will do anything to help each other. It is just an amazing network of special people that care about their clients and care about each other. It's almost like our business family, to be honest. A lot of them go on vacation together and all those things. And I often say, I've known a lot of those franchisees longer than I know my children. I mean, they've been here a long time, which is very unusual in the franchise world. But that special culture that we have, I think it's just, I don't see it anywhere else. I don't think you can replicate it. You either have it or you don't,
I would agree.
So I guess if I go back just for a second, because I know you're on your way for a family vacation, but if you could do one thing differently, and I know it's enjoy the ride, I know that, but hey, I'm spending all my time, not all my time, but I spend a lot of time with SDRs. I've got now, you've retooled the business because you actually bought a business for somebody that wanted to exit this part of I'll call it the day in and day outs, right? Come work for corporate. Any, I guess, road or anything that you would say, hey, go focus on X, Y, and Z, or, if you're in the first 90 days, let's bucket it that way. The first 90 days, because I often tell people you bought a sales job. It turns into a heck of a business, but don't fool yourself.
100%. You just answered the question. So yeah, I would have focused more. If I could go back and do it over again, I would have focused more on sales and really just getting reps in, because, I want to lead by the, on the front lines.
Yeah.
And so be a product of the product and sell more. So
are you in a training co-op?
I am.
So can you just briefly explain what that is before I let you go?
Sure. So it's multiple Sandler trainers who, we're basically pooling our resources. And then what we can do is we can tap into the individual strengths of different trainers so that they can train certain classes, to our collective learners. And it's been nothing short of transformational. It's been great. So I can have time to go sell more and
Right.
prospect. And I mean, they're also hearing from, different talk tracks, right? Everybody, there's no one right way to say something because we're all different. So, them hearing a message coming from different people I think it's so powerful.
Yeah, if you think about, I'm going to use a gym analogy for a quick second for those who don't know what a co-op is for us. Think about you're a personal trainer at a gym. There's only a certain amount of time in your days, right? So if you're working with clients all the time, you still got to go find new clients. You still have to work on the business. You have to do a bunch of things. But in the Sandler co-op, if you use a gym, now I've got 5 other trainers that your clients can go to, and they hear maybe the same thing from a different perspective. So it expands their view of Sandler. It gives you as the trainer, as you said, more time to sell, more time to do the business stuff. And you're not necessarily always in delivery mode, although that's an awesome part of it. But you said something earlier as well, specialties. So you love SDRs. If you had a program for SDRs, I would suspect the co-op would say, Tiffany, you're it. Go and prosper into the SDRs. And you may say, negotiation, we're going to go do that one as an example because that's his swing zone. And I think that's kind of cool, actually. That happened as a result of COVID, but it's changed your business.
It has.
Hey, I appreciate you jumping on. And of course, super proud of you, what you've done as a franchisee. You've had a unique journey, and I'm waiting to see how your kids now, are they listening to all this stuff in the car?
Oh, they do. I constantly get reversed, and the questioning strategies that come back at me and upfront contracts.
Do they know they're doing it yet?
Oh, they now, I think they understand sometimes, but they've heard, of course, they've heard it. They're product of the product. It's awesome. So they love Sandler too.
I think the greatest gift in years to come is you're going to see them act like 40-year-olds when they're 25 talking to adults. Mm-hmm. And that is very cool.
At 10, I see it. People are like, that just came out of your daughter's mouth. I was like,
yeah, that's awesome. Hey, thanks for joining us. Have a great vacation.
Thanks so much, Dave. Appreciate it.
For more information on Sandler franchising opportunities, go to sandler.com/franchising. And don't forget to subscribe to the No Guts, No Gain podcast on your favorite app.